So when I first started ninth grade, I met a guy in home ec and we started dating. And then I didn't have a lot of parental guidance at that time. I didn't have a large support group. So as a teenager, I was kind of winging it. Um, I got pregnant and he was my first boyfriend. And at that time, you know, I took a pregnancy test because I'd missed my period. And when I found out that I was pregnant, um, I went to talk to him. The next couple of days later, he came back and he said, "All right, I've got you an appointment and you're going to have an abortion." At that time, I really didn't understand what abortion was. It was a decision that was taken out of my hands. He had made that decision and he had made that appointment. Um, he and his sister put me in the truck and we went to Atlanta to my appointment. I went in and the sister went in with me. We went to the check-in desk to talk to the receptionist and she looked at me and she goes, "Are you 18?" And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to lie. I was like, "No, I'm 15," but I didn't say it. And the sister answered for me and she said, "No, she's 18." And the receptionist looked at me and she said, "Are you 18?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Okay, sign here. No ID, no paperwork, just sign here." She said, "Come on back." And she said, "Undress from the waist down and lay on the table, and here's a sheet, put it over you." And I did. She came back in and said, "The doctor will be in just a second, and he's going to give you a local anesthetic down there." And I asked her, I said, "Is this going to hurt?" And she said, "No, you're going to be fine." The doctor walked in and he gave me that local anesthetic. He left for a few minutes and then he came back in. He flipped on a light and then there was a loud noise and he had turned on a vacuum. And there was a canister on the wall right beside me. It was a clear glass canister and it had a tube running through it. And I could feel the tears just filling up my ears, running down my face. They said I would be okay, and they lied. And they said it would not hurt. And they lied. It hurt so bad. I remember seeing everything that they were vacuuming out of me coming through that tube and into the canister that was right here. And then it was done. The doctor walked out. The nurse flipped on the light, tossed a sanitary napkin on top of my clothes and said, "Get dressed, you're done, you can leave." That is all the follow-up that I had. There was no aftercare, just the deed's done, you're done, go home. They said I would be okay, and I wasn't. But the pain and the emotional pain also was so bad. I was an A student. I didn't like to miss school. And so I went back. And I remember just laying my head on my folded arms on my desk. And I was crying. I couldn't help it. It's all the pregnancy hormones are still running through your body. And I was so emotional. And I could hear the girls behind me. I wonder if she's pregnant. I wonder if she's pregnant. I could hear the whispers. I knew what they were talking about. And I was thinking to myself, I was pregnant. Not anymore. And then that's when I learned how to internalize it, not think about it, put it in that safe place, put it in denial, not think about it, protect that secret. And that's how I went forward until I met Jesus. In my late 30s, I started going to church. And I felt like I had a sin so dirty that I did not want the Lord to know. I thought that I could hide it from God. I thought if I don't admit it to God, He doesn't know. That was my reasoning. But I would take my secret sin to the altar every single Sunday. And I would pray, Lord, forgive me. But I didn't understand that forgiveness. And I would pick it up and would put my sin in my pocket and I would take it back to the pew with me. I never let it go. Every Sunday, I never told anybody. If it was Sanctity of Life Month or Sanctity of Life Sunday, I would lie to be out of church so I wouldn't hear that sermon. I did not want to be caught listening to a sermon in church about it's murder. I know it is. I know it is. It was. I didn't want anybody to know. I tried so hard to protect my secret sin. I would keep the nursery. I would not drive down roads that where the churches put out those little white crosses in the yard. I would go a different route to church to avoid that. I did everything I could to avoid being caught in a situation where my sin might be discovered. And then one day I was at church and I was looking at some pamphlets on a table and there was a little brochure. It was a Choices brochure. And it was about their post-abortion class. And it says, does it still trouble you? I was like, yeah, it does. Well, that's as far as I wanted to take it. So I folded it up and I put it in my Bible. And every week I would open my Bible at church. Does it still trouble you? Yeah, it does. The shame, the regret, the guilt, forbidden grief. How can you grieve something that you intentionally caused? The devil convinced me I was a second-class Christian. And so for about 10 years, that's how I felt. I was a second-class Christian. I was in a ministry that helped women. And one day, a woman had confided to me that she had had an abortion. And could I pray for her? And I said, yes. The words that came out of my mouth were pleasant to her ears. but did not ring true in my own heart because I was struggling with the same sin. I just didn't have the guts to say it out loud. I finally called the number on the back of the brochure. I hung up on him a couple of times, more than a couple of times. And I told him, I said, I want to take the class. In that class, there can be a woman from 17 to 79. That sin is no respecter of ages. We all had the same thing in common. In this post-abortion healing class, it's a 10-week Bible study, and we untangled shame, regret, guilt. We untangle all of this, one emotion at a time. And then what we're left with is a true understanding that the Lord can forgive you, that there is hope, that there is forgiveness. The Lord can forgive. It does not change the outcome of the choice I made. Forgiveness doesn't sweep it under the rug so I can trip over it in 10 years. Forgiveness is forgiveness. The Lord has done a work in me, and He has given me a voice to walk forward and to help other women who are stuck in that place that says nobody's going to understand. And that's why I do what I do at Choices. It's because I want to help women who are still stuck in that place to know that there is hope and there is forgiveness on the other side of that.